How's it going, wrestling fans, and welcome back to Leg Slapper. And you may have noticed that a couple days ago, we released a video entitled The Shortest Matches at WrestleMania. And in that video, I promised the longest matches at WrestleMania, and well, here you go. The three matches we're going to talk about today are the WrestleMania 16 main event Fatal 4-Way for the WWF Championship between Triple H, Mick Foley, The Rock, and Big Show. We will also be talking about the recent WrestleMania 40 Night 1 main event between Seth freaking Rollins and Cody Rhodes taking on the final boss, The Rock, and Roman Reigns. And the final match we'll be tackling today, the longest match in WrestleMania history, the main event match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship in a 60-minute Iron Man match. As is custom with WrestleMania, we get a nice little interview with The Rock. The Rock says that after everything he's been through, he's happy to say that he'd be willing to do it again, and with a smile on his face say, finally, The Rock is back at WrestleMania. He says it's not about the McMahons, it's not about Mick Foley's final match, it's just about the championship. He says he's gonna go out there and lay at the smackdown on all the candy asses that just so happen to be in the ring with The Rock. It's a classic Rock promo. If you've seen one, you've seen this one, but it did a great job of getting me and seemingly the crowd in attendance really hyped up for the main event. When the entrances begin, Mick Foley is the first one out with current US Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. The build behind the match was pretty iffy, but it is nice to see the crowd give Mick Foley the ovation that he deserved, especially considering this was at one point supposed to be Mick Foley's retirement match. The Big Show is out next with Shane McMahon, and I have to say, this is probably the leanest I've seen Big Show. And to be honest, he might actually be a bit too lean, because in this moment, while yeah, Big Show is enormous and he could absolutely punch through my face, this is probably the least intimidating Big Show looked at any point in his career. The Rock is out next with Vince McMahon in what is an even stranger sight than what I have mentioned previously. And finally, the champion Triple H enters with new women's champion Stephanie McMahon. And I gotta say, Triple H looks like $1 million here. The guy is jacked to the gills, and he looks like he would have no problem taking a fight to Big Show, which is definitely what you want from your top guy. I will say it's just a bit of a shame that Triple H still has his kind of mid-tier music. He doesn't quite have the I am the game shtick going quite yet, but he's getting there. All four guys stare each other down as the bell rings. But it's actually Mick Foley who first takes the fight to the game, while The Rock and Big Show fight themselves. The Big Show takes control quite early, actually hitting impressive military slams on both The Rock and Triple H. And if you've lifted weight before, you probably know that can't be an easy thing to do. Foley manages to cut Big Show off with a sleeper hold, but the Big Show ain't having that and he tosses himself to the mat, squishing Mick Foley in the process. The Rock takes the fight back to Big Show, and it looks like nobody's gonna be able to stop him in the early moments of the match. That is until Mick Foley just hoofs him in the nuts. All three of the men finally take the fight to the Big Show together, with The Rock finally being the one to take him down. They all end up stopping the Big Show until the fight inevitably spills to the outside. Foley does what he does, and he introduces a weapon into the mix, a chair, and he beats on Triple H outside as The Rock and Big Show continue in the ring. Shane McMahon interferes with The Rock and Big Show, but so does Mick Foley, hitting Big Show with a steel chair, something that leads to a rock bottom from The Rock and the very, very quick elimination of the Big Show from this Fatal 4-Way. Just like that, Big Show and Shane McMahon are now headed to the back. Triple H, being the bad guy he is, suggests The Rock and he actually team up and just take out Mick Foley, because why not? For a second, it actually looks like The Rock is down, and it looks like they're about to do it, and of course, The Rock ends up hitting Triple H instead. The two men end up beating up Triple H around the ring, bumping him around, and even hitting a double clothesline on it. Triple H is sent to the outside, and though he tries to battle back, the numbers game is a bit too much for him at this point. After a sequence with a ring bell and some steel steps, all three men are down once again. But Triple H manages to maintain a newfound advantage. And what happens when Mick Foley is down? Well, he grabs another weapon. This time, it's time for Mick Foley to get a little bit more extreme, so he actually pulls out a barbed wire 2x4, something that sends Triple H running. In the corner with nowhere to go, Triple H narrowly avoids a swing from the 2x4 before managing to get his own hands on it and hitting Foley with it in return. The Rock tries to get involved again by taking it to Triple H, but it's still Mick Foley with the advantage as he grabs Triple H and lands his double underhook DDT. But that's not all. Next up, Mick Foley whips out Socko and he prepares to deliver the Mandible Claw. Mick Foley gets the Mandible Claw on Triple H and the crowd goes nuts. The Rock comes in with the championship and nails Triple H with it, and the crowd is still loving it. It looks like The Rock is going to go for the People's Elbow and the crowd is ready to erupt, but then Mick Foley hits The Rock with the Mandible Claw. Once again, all three men end up on the floor. Eventually, Foley nails his DDT on The Rock for another near fall. Eventually, The Rock gets the upper hand on Mick Foley, and for whatever reason in this elimination match, Triple H decides to break up a pinfall attempt that looked like it would have been a 3 count. You can try and save the moment as much as you want in storyline and on commentary, but it really does seem more like Triple H made a bit of a mistake here. The Rock continues to survive offense that's coming his way, even managing to withstand a wicked shot from the steel steps. As JR makes it clear on commentary, there are no friends in this match. Mick Foley tries to land an elbow from inside the ring to the announce table on the outside that The Rock is laid out on. And unfortunately, it doesn't go super well. It kind of creates an awkward moment where it looks like Foley actually just hurt himself rather than The Rock, and then Triple H kind of comes in to deliver 2 kind of awkward elbow drops onto the table because the table still hasn't broken until that second elbow drop. In the ring, Triple H hits Mick Foley with the pedigree for another near fall. That wasn't quite enough to get rid of Mick Foley, so he goes, grabs a steel chair, nails him with it, and tries again, and what do you know? He gets the elimination this time. Mick Foley is gone, Linda McMahon is gone, and now the only 2 competitors are The Rock and Triple H. And I gotta tell you, the crowd was not super happy about Mick Foley being eliminated. It's actually really good to see Mick Foley get the type of ovation that he got from the crowd, as he really does deserve that much love. Although Mick Foley isn't quite done yet. Just before Mick Foley makes his leave, he decides, oh yeah, I left my barbed wire 2x4 back there. So he goes and grabs it and tries to give it very, very violently and painfully to Triple H. The Rock tries to capitalize on this by pinning Triple H, but Triple H still manages to kick out in time. Both exhausted men brawl inside the ring, outside the ring, in the arena, amongst the fans. They are brawling absolutely everywhere, and this fight looks like it's not gonna be ending anytime soon. I have to say, there is no thud like a human body on concrete. It is one of the most painful sounds that I hear whenever someone takes a bump on what is essentially just a little gym mat over concrete. I go, oh my God, your back, your body, your air is just gone. Absolutely brutal. Once the 2 men have battled back to the ringside area, Triple H actually nails The Rock with a brutal pile driver onto the steel steps. Triple H rolls him into the ring for another near fall, and the fans absolutely cannot believe that The Rock is still in it. As we're coming to the close of the match, The Rock actually hits one of the most beautiful suplexes I've seen ever in this match. Seriously, go back and watch it. He suplexes Triple H standing through the remaining announce table, and it's just textbook, absolutely beautiful suplex. But of course, the McMahons are out there, and that means the McMahons have to be doing something. So what does Vince McMahon do? He starts beating up Triple H. But of course, Shane McMahon is also now back in the equation, and he starts taking the fight to Vince. Eventually, Vince McMahon ends up needing to be helped to the back after the assault from Shane, while Triple H and The Rock continue battling. Triple H eventually gets his hands back on the barbed wire 2x4 and manages to hit The Rock, but thanks to some of Shane's interference with a steel chair, both men end up down. Here comes Vince McMahon back again for some reason to take the fight back to Shane. And it's at this point that you're like, wow, this match kind of is an overbooked mess. Like, there's too much going on. Eventually, Vince McMahon nails The Rock with a steel chair, allowing Triple H to capitalize. 1, 2, no. It's another unbelievable near fall. This was the moment when that entire crowd thought the match was over. Unfortunately, all it would take is yet another steel chair shot to The Rock in order to put him down for good, leaving Triple H the winner of the match and still the world champion. Of course, The Rock may have been screwed, but The Rock's not done yet. In fact, The Rock is basically gonna rock bottom and people's elbow anybody and everybody he can get his hands on. And while this match may have had a bit of a downer ending for some fans, at least you get to watch The Rock hit the people's elbow on Stephanie McMahon in the middle of the ring to close the show. But let's move on to another long WrestleMania match. Up next, we have the WrestleMania 40 Night 1 main event between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins up against the final boss The Rock and Roman Reigns in what is a 44-minute match. And rightfully so. This match is fantastic. And I wouldn't even fault you if you think that this tag match is better than the one-on-one match between Cody and Roman on night 2. Before the match, we kick things off with a absolute chef's kiss promo package that perfectly encapsulates the build to this historic WrestleMania. The fact that the fan backlash helped this main event even take place makes it all the more fun. And honestly, I think it helped fans be even more invested in the overall storyline. I have to say, the heel work from both Roman and The Rock was superb, and the babyface fire that Cody brought to the equation made it all the better. And of course, heap all the praise on Seth Rollins. Say whatever you want, Seth Rollins is amazing. Cody Rhodes and Seth freaking Rollins versus the final boss and Roman Reigns. The stipulation that's on the line, should The Rock and Roman Reigns win, the Night 2 main event between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns for the championship will be a bloodline rules match. Cody Rhodes is out first with his emotions on his sleeve. You can see the worry and the conflict in his face as he's rising up the stage, but the moment he can see and hear the fans is the moment that the smile pulls across his face. We get that classic big whoa from the audience, and Cody makes his way to the ring. Out next is Seth Rollins in his absolute best. I mean, it looks like the guy mugged a king and an artist at the same time and then kind of just accidentally got their clothes glued together, put them on, and decided it's WrestleMania time, baby. What I'm trying to say is this is Seth Rollins at one of his most extravagant. Up next, we got the final boss, The Rock, out, and his entrance is every bit as crazy as you might expect. It's The Rock, so it's got electricity, it's got fire, it's got The Rock carrying a weird championship belt that has absolutely no value to the WWE storylines, so it kinda looks a little dumb. Next up, Roman Reigns comes out with the Wise Man, and we are getting ready to get this match underway. All four men have a little stare down moment, and I don't know if it was louder in the crowd live, but in the video, it doesn't seem like as great a moment as you might hope. It seemed like they were kind of going for the Rock Hogan moment, and it was nothing like that. Maybe it was live. Who knows? Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins start the match, something that immediately pops the crowd. Roman gets the advantage early, but after a bit of jabbering, Seth Rollins is able to regain the advantage and make the tag to Cody Rhodes. After a couple tags back and forth, Roman finally tags in the final boss for the first time, so he steps into the ring against Seth Rollins, and man, does this version of The Rock absolutely bully people. He's not quite as quick as he used to be, but he makes up for that with power, and guys like Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes are the right people to be bumping for this version of The Rock. After a little bit of bullying Rollins, Cody Rhodes finally steps into the ring to face off against the final boss, the guy who's been beating him down for weeks at this point. They lock up, but like I've been saying, The Rock powers through Cody Rhodes. Eventually, Cody tags in Seth, and the two of them double team both The Rock and Roman Reigns. Unfortunately for the referee, the babyfaces were standing tall and decided we want to brawl on the outside. And that's exactly what all four men do. The final boss and Rollins brawl into the little prime station while Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns brawl up the ramp to the main stage. The ref actually begins to count everybody out because this is still a standard tag team match, but of course, the final boss, who at this point is the boss of many people in the company, tells the ref if he counts him out, he will have him fired. So as you might expect, the count stops. The Rock and Rollins actually brawl into the crowd, while Cody and Roman are brawling on the stage, with Cody hitting an awesome suplex to Roman Reigns on the stage. Once we finally get back in the ring, it looks like Seth Rollins is closing in on The Rock, but Roman Reigns takes him out from behind, thus giving The Rock control of the match once again. I have to say, a fun aspect of this match is the fact that Seth Rollins needs to defend his world title the very next night, so every bit of damage, every single time he's taking significant offense, is another moment of doubt in the minds of fans, being like, oh god, he'll barely be able to walk into his match tomorrow. There's no way he can retain. And this is made all the more significant because for much of the match, it's actually Seth Rollins who's getting beat down. Reigns and The Rock just continue to work over Rollins in the ring. Rollins is trying everything. He's sending The Rock to the outside, but Roman's already taken Cody out, so he can't make the tag. Eventually, Roman looks for acknowledgement from the crowd to a chorus of loud boos. We get a brief double down after Roman Reigns goes for the Superman punch on Rollins, but Rollins is able to counter into a neckbreaker. Unfortunately, the final boss is once again able to stop Rollins from making his much needed tag to Cody. After another double down, this time with The Rock, Rollins once again tries to make the tag, but he just can't. And in this moment, The Rock is able to put the sharpshooter on Seth Rollins, and it looks like this match is coming to a close. Thanks to a quick slap in the face from Cody, paying back The Rock from their previous engagements, Seth Rollins is finally able to make the tag. Cody takes the fight to Reigns in the ring, hitting disaster kicks and Cody cutters left and right. We get another pinfall attempt, 1, 2, kick out. Match ain't done yet. Eventually, Reigns manages to counter Cody into a Superman punch, regaining control of the match. But when Reigns goes for the spear, Cody manages to counter. Cody does a little sunset flip into a pin for yet another near fall. Cody gets to the top and hits a splash as Seth Rollins tags him so that Seth Rollins can then follow up with a splash of his own for another near fall that the crowd was very, very into. Rollins then goes for the stomp but takes a powerbomb for his effort. He manages to avoid a spear and tag in Cody, where the two men then deliver deliver an onslaught of super kicks to Roman Reigns. It's at this point where we see Seth Rollins hit the stomp and Cody Rhodes hit the crossroads. This is it. It's got to be over. 1, 2, The Rock pulls the ref out of the ring, breaking the count. After some brawling, Reigns low blows Cody, leaving him in a very vulnerable state. Reigns hits Cody with a spear as The Rock throws the ref back into the ring, but Cody manages to kick out. Absolute thunderous applause there. Cody and Rollins try to fight back into it, but The Rock and Roman Reigns are proving too much for them. While they have a lot of heart, The Rock and Roman Reigns have too much power. An exhausted Reigns tags in The Rock, and after some jabber with Cody's mom, The Rock brings the weight belt in to start whacking Cody. After a quick surprise spine buster from The Rock on Cody Rhodes, it looks like he's ready to end the match with the People's Elbow. Unfortunately for The Rock, Cody is able to get up and counter the move into the Cody Cutter for a really great moment in this match. Reigns gets back in the action and he ends up saving The Rock with a Superman punch, but unfortunately just a short while later, The Rock will take a spear from Roman Reigns himself. Cody and Seth manage to hit tandem pedigrees on both men and pin both men at the same time. 1, 2, no, the match is still going. But this time, the babyfaces have the advantage. They're brawling on the outside and Cody Rhodes manages to hit a rock bottom onto The Rock through one of the announce tables just as Roman Reigns spears Seth Rollins through the barricade. It looks like everybody is done for. Cody gets The Rock back into the ring, but as Cody's trying to get into the ring, Roman Reigns nails Cody with a drive-by kick. The Rock manages to tag Roman Reigns in, and he and Cody have a battle for the ages. Cody is able to get Roman Reigns into 2 crossroads, and it looks like he's ready to deliver the third and final to put this match to bed. But what happens? The Rock grabs a kendo stick and nails Cody Rhodes in the back before he can hit his third crossroad. Roman then hits Cody with a spear, leaving him laid out in the middle of the ring. And what does he do? He tags in The Rock. And from here, it goes how you'd expect. The Rock hits a rock bottom, he hits the People's Elbow, 1, 2, 3, The Rock has pinned Cody Rhodes, meaning that at night 2 of WrestleMania 40 in the main event, Cody Rhodes will be taking on Roman Reigns in a Bloodline Rules match. This match is excellent and easily one of the best tag team matches in WrestleMania history, which is saying something considering it has nothing to do with the tag team division. I have to say, it's no surprise why so many people say that WrestleMania 40 either is their favorite or is one of their favorite WrestleManias of all time. And finally, we're moving on to the longest match in WrestleMania history. This one should come as no surprise. Everyone knows this match. It is a legendary match, and it is the Iron Man match for the world title between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 12. It is a match that goes over an hour in length, and I have to say that such a unique and legendary match probably isn't going to happen ever again. I don't see us ever getting an Iron Man match at WrestleMania again, especially since WWE is already struggling to book the thing, so they have to split it into 2 nights because there's so much talent and so many storylines for them to get to. Before the match begins, we get a promo that is primarily asking the question, who is the better man? Is it Bret Hart, the technical wizard, or is it Shawn Michaels, the young heartthrob high flyer? Shawn tells us that for once, he can't really think of something to say and that this is the final chapter of the story. Interesting how that phraseology comes up so often, isn't it? While at the same time, Bret says it's do or die and he doesn't care what happens in that match so long as he wakes up the next day still champion. Shawn is out first, but instead of his usual walkout, his trainer, Jose Lothario, comes out and walks out and the fans are kind of like, what's going on here? He makes his way to the ring, the music cuts out, and even the announcers are kind of clowning on Shawn Michaels, being like, oh look, he didn't show up, he ran away. But of course, this is one of the most iconic WrestleMania entrances of all time, and Shawn Michaels is up in the rafters, ready to swing down to the ring for his match. On the flip side, you had the champion Bret Hart walking out just like he would always do, and that perfectly encapsulates Bret Hart too. He's not about the flash. Bret Hart is a technician. He is there to beat you down piece by piece. He doesn't need extravagance. He's got his music, he's got his pyro, he's gonna walk out, he's got that title, and that's all that matters. I have to say, watching both guys stand across the ring from each other before the bell really gets you hyped for this match, especially if you're a fan of both guys, and you know that you're about to watch one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. And it makes it even better that the story of this match is actually incredibly simple. The match is just, who is the better guy? Who can come out of this Iron Man match with the win? They have an hour to beat each other up. Who's the better guy? It's so interesting that such a long match has such a simple yet effective story. Once we're actually starting with the match, the referee is explaining the rules because I imagine most people up to that point had no idea what an Iron Man match even was. The bell finally sounds and both men start the match up with a classic lockup. After that, they move into a little technical sequence, playing into the storyline of who is the better man. The match does begin with a slower pace and has a slower pace overall than most modern wrestling fans will be used to, but it makes sense. The early minutes is a question of fundamentals. Who is the better wrestler? And as you'd expect, Bret Hart's technical prowess allows him to gain control rather quickly in comparison to Shawn Michaels' high-flying offense. In fact, throughout this match, a lot of the time you'll see Shawn only manages to regain the advantage when he's able to begin to do some of his high-flying maneuvers. 5 minutes in, and there still hasn't even been an impactful move, really. And yet the crowd is in every single minute. For each move, Shawn always has an option, but Bret already knows the counter to the counter that Shawn is going to do. I actually think Vince McMahon on commentary makes a great call roughly 10 minutes into the match. Both men are pacing themselves, and that's because the first one to make the mistake, that little decisive factor, that deciding moment, that one mistake is going to be the one thing that allows the other man to get the pinfall. And for the whole hour of this Iron Man match, both men wrestle perfectly. It's not too long before Shawn is able to regain some kind of advantage in a leapfrog spot. This is nearly 15 minutes in. The crowd quickly erupts when it's clear that Bret Hart is going for the sharpshooter, which unfortunately he is unable to apply to Shawn Michaels. We're a full 15 minutes in, and this is where we get our first brawl on the outside. Bret ends up sent and leaning on one of the timekeepers at ringside, and Shawn Michaels delivers a massive sweet chin music to that timekeeper, meaning Bret Hart moves out of the way at the very last second. Once we get to the roughly 20-minute mark, Shawn is back in control, and this time he's working over Bret Hart's arms. Vince McMahon and Jerry Lawler are doing a great job on commentary. They're making it clear that all of the damage that Shawn is doing to Bret's arms is rendering Bret unable to actually get back into the fight properly. Bret covers Shawn for a 2 count just before the 30-minute mark. It's a good signal here that both guys are beginning to run out of gas, and the match is only halfway done. All of this making a lack of decision up to this point all the better. During this time, Shawn is basically just bumping around for Bret, making Bret look like $1 million and making him look like a very sympathetic babyface. It looks like Bret is absolutely kicking the daylight out of Shawn, and somehow he keeps getting back to his feet. Just before 30 minutes pass, Bret Hart hits Shawn with this move that I don't think I've ever seen another wrestler do, where he lines up his knee across Shawn Michaels' head from the top rope and does almost like a twisting, flipping bump to the mat, bringing Shawn's head into his knee. And I thought the move looked awesome. It looks like they kind of accidentally take out the ref, but the move itself is great, and someone should use that as their finish because it looks mwah. Shawn manages to get a 2 count of his own on Bret with a wicked high power slam. All of this before Bret Hart nails Shawn Michaels with a pile driver for another near fall. And I wanted to say this here, but when all the veteran wrestlers are complaining about performers nowadays killing the business, moments like this need to be kept in mind. So just remember that in this match, Bret Hart hits a high spot. Shawn reverses for a pinfall attempt. Bret immediately reverses again into a pile driver, what is considered one of the most devastating wrestling maneuvers that you can do at that point. And all he gets is another 2 count. Shawn goes for a sweet chin music in the ring. Hart ducks out of the ring, so Shawn hits a flying crossbody from the top rope to the outside. Then he goes for a crossbody in the ring, which is then countered by Bret yet again for another 2 count. No, it's not quite dishing out Canadian destroyers and super kicks till they're going out of style. But back in the day, this kind of was the equivalent to that. And yes, it is WrestleMania, but I would think any fight involving 2 guys trying to beat each other up would see both guys throwing everything they have at each other, regardless of what the stakes are. At the end of the day, whether it's for a championship or not, you want to be the one that wins. Shawn next hits Bret with a perfect plex just before we have 25 minutes left on the clock. At this point, Shawn decides to once again try and submit Bret, this time with the sleeper hold. With 23 minutes left in the match, Bret dumps Shawn to the outside of the ring yet again. And Shawn takes a crazy high bump. Instead of taking a count out decision for a single point in the match, Bret goes out, taking the fight to Shawn, slamming him into the corner of the ring. And it was at this moment that I really really thought to myself, I would love to see an Iron Man match where both guys are fighting on the outside, the ref's counting, we're at 9, and maybe either the wily veteran or the cocky heel slips into the ring right before the count of 10 for a fall. I feel like that'd be a fun spot that I haven't personally seen in a match, but maybe it has, and let me know if you've seen that spot in a wrestling match, because I'd love to see how it works on a crowd. With 20 minutes to go and still no falls, Hart is back in control. The crowd is going nuts each and every time someone kicks out of anything. And it's pretty clear that regardless of whoever walked away the winner here, the crowd would have been happy. With 16 minutes to go, Bret throws Shawn out of the ring yet again, but this time he's making a point of throwing Shawn into his trainer. 15 minutes left, the announcers begin to call for Bret to put on the sharpshooter. But Bret seems perfectly happy just dishing out punishment. Shawn is showing some fire throughout the match, but it looks like the longer pace is actually to the benefit of Bret Hart, who's seemingly managing to conserve his energy and pick his moments so that he can actually go the distance, whereas Shawn is really beginning to flounder right now. It makes sense after all. Shawn is doing all of his high-flying, costly moves, and Bret is keeping it relatively tame. But now it's time for Bret to hit a high-flying move, so at roughly 13 minutes left, Bret takes a dive onto Shawn to the outside. And this time, as Bret returns to the ring, it looks like he's actually willing to take the count-out victory over Shawn Michaels, something that really pisses off the crowd. He does end up breaking the count, but it really didn't matter to the crowd. At that point, they were starting to boo a little bit. It's here where we get a great sequence of Shawn trying to get back into the ring, for as he climbs up onto the apron, Bret sets him up for a suplex over the ropes into the ring. Michaels manages to reverse it and tries for a move of his own, but Bret reverses again into a beautiful German suplex that he holds for another near fall. 10 minutes left in the match, it looks like it's all Bret, and it looks like Shawn has no chance at becoming the new champion. I think essentially from the 10-minute mark to the 8-minute mark, Bret is basically just holding Shawn down in a rest hold, but it was perfect because it built to the next explosive 8 minutes of action that we get in this match. Shawn gets back into it, but we get a double down off of a double clothesline. Thanks to all the damage Shawn has taken, Bret is the one that is first back to his feet. He takes Shawn to the top rope and nails a picture-perfect superplex. But due to his own damage, he's still unable to capitalize fully on it. Luckily, he's able to get up and try for the sharpshooter on Shawn, but Shawn is able to get out of it. Bret tries desperately to put Shawn in any submission hold, and he finally decides, you know what? Single leg Boston Crab. That'll do it. In order to actually escape the hold, Shawn has to scramble to the bottom rope in order to break the hold. The crowd actually ends up booing Hart again because he holds to the count of 5. We have 5 minutes left and it's getting nuts. Bret Hart goes for an elbow off the second rope, only to be kicked by Shawn Michaels and for Shawn Michaels to mount a massive comeback. After some offense from Shawn and a little bit of back and forth, both men are down with about 3.5 minutes left to go, and Shawn kips up. Now we're at 2.5 minutes, and Shawn hits its top rope elbow on Bret Hart, but it's still not enough. He hits an awesome gut-wrench powerbomb before hitting a moonsault, and it's still not enough. 1 minute left, and Shawn is trying to muster all of his energy to get to the top rope one last time for one last elbow drop. But Bret is ready, Bret is there, and he manages to cinch in the sharpshooter with 30 seconds to go in the match. You could see everybody in the crowd on their feet. You could see people with their hands on their head, worried, teeth clenched. Will Bret make Shawn tap out? Can Shawn withstand the sharpshooter for another 30 seconds? If he can make it 30 seconds, at least he didn't lose. And of course, that's it. The bell rings, the sharpshooter's still on, but no decision was rendered. There's an awkward air in the arena as nobody really knows what's going on, but Bret goes and gets his title and starts walking away. It's at this point where Gorilla Monsoon makes his presence felt, and the match ends up ordered to restart, and that there has to be a definitive fall. There has to be a definitive champion. Bret gets back into the ring to argue with Gorilla Monsoon, but it doesn't matter. This match is beginning yet again. As soon as the match is restarted, Bret takes the boots to Shawn, and it looks like there's nothing that Shawn can do. He leaps into the air off a big back body drop, giving excellent height. Again, no surprise for a guy like Shawn Michaels. And eventually, Shawn manages to counter Bret into the sweet chin music. Yet, thanks to all the damage, it's actually Bret Hart that is still the first man to begin to stir. Now, luckily, there's some separation, and Shawn also manages to rise to his feet. And in that moment, Shawn is able to deliver one final sweet chin music to pick up the win. After an hour of grueling competition, Shawn Michaels has become the new champ. I have to say, it was deeply impressive just how good this match was, even today. Yes, it was slower, but it's so much fun. The storytelling is so good, and it really is clear why Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart are pretty much two names that are on everybody's Mount Rushmore of wrestling. This is one of those older matches that absolutely holds up, and it is absolutely one that you should go back and watch if you haven't done so already. So that's it. Shawn Michaels closes out WrestleMania 12. The boyhood dream has come true. He is now world champion. And I'm sure Shawn Michaels will have nothing wrong in his career at all. It will all be perfect. But that is it, everybody. Those are some of the longest matches at WrestleMania ever. And in fact, that Iron Man match was the longest WrestleMania match of all time. If you like this video, let me know. Let me know other long WrestleMania matches you'd like me to cover, and maybe I'll get to them in a part 2. Don't forget to tune back into the channel every single day, like and subscribe. There are plenty more videos on the way, a lot more wrestling content.